What if I told you that Darth Vader's son wasn't the only one who survived? That the father of Anakin Skywalker wasn't simply absent, but potentially a Sith Lord's darkest experiment? That beneath the Jedi Temple itself lurked an ancient evil that clouded everything the Jedi could see? The Star Wars universe holds secrets far deeper than most fans ever discover. Tonight, as you close your eyes and prepare for sleep, I'll take you beyond the films and shows, into the shadows between canon and legend, where the most fascinating mysteries dwell. These aren't simply fan theories. They're the hidden pathways through the Force that explain the saga's greatest questions. Why was Anakin really created? How did the Sith truly begin? What cosmic entities were moving stars and planets long before the first lightsaber ignited? Each theory is crafted to stir your imagination while gently lulling your mind toward peaceful dreams of distant galaxies. By the final theory, don't be surprised if the boundary between consciousness and sleep has blurred like the line between the light and dark sides of the Force. So dim the lights, find your most comfortable position, and prepare to journey far beyond the stars you thought you knew. Theory 1. Anakin's birth, divine will or Sith experiment. The circumstances of Anakin Skywalker's birth represent perhaps the greatest mystery in the entire Star Wars saga. Shmi Skywalker's simple yet profound words still echo through the Force. There was no father. I carried him. I gave birth. I raised him. I can't explain what happened. This miraculous virgin birth creates two fascinating possibilities, each with profound implications for the entire saga. The first possibility takes us to the laboratories of Darth Plagueis, Palpatine's Sith Master. Imagine Plagueis in his private sanctum, surrounded by arcane instruments, his eyes glowing with dark side energy as he conducts forbidden experiments. For years, perhaps decades, this brilliant Sith Lord had been attempting to manipulate midichlorians, the microscopic life forms that connect living beings to the Force, to create life itself. According to Legends materials, Plagueis did indeed conduct such experiments, attempting to bend the fundamental building blocks of life to his will. But the Force is not so easily manipulated. In a moment of cosmic irony, his efforts ultimately backfired. Rather than creating a dark side weapon, the Force itself responded to this unnatural tampering by spontaneously conceiving Anakin Skywalker in the womb of a humble slave woman on a distant desert planet. If this theory holds true, then Anakin was in essence the Force's champion, created as a direct response to Sith meddling with the natural order. The Force, sensing a dire threat to its balance, manifested its chosen vessel to ultimately bring that balance back. The alternative theory is perhaps even more chilling. What if Palpatine himself, either acting alone or with his master Plagueis, directly caused Anakin's conception? In the 2018 comic Darth Vader Nut 25, we glimpse a vision of Palpatine reaching through the Force toward Shmi's womb. Though deliberately left ambiguous by the creators, this image suggests that Palpatine may have been directly responsible for manipulating the midichlorians within Shmi to create Anakin. If this second theory is correct, then the bitter irony becomes even more pronounced. The Sith Lords deliberately created the very person who would eventually destroy them. They engineered their own destruction through their arrogance and hunger for power. Either interpretation creates a beautiful symmetry. Whether the Force created Anakin as a response to Sith manipulation, or whether the Sith created him directly only to be undone by their creation, the outcome remains the same. A child born of extraordinary means who would grow to become both the greatest villain and ultimately the savior of the galaxy. As you drift towards sleep, contemplate this cosmic irony. The very powers that sought to control the Force were ultimately undone by it, either through its direct intervention or through their own machinations. In the stillness of night, perhaps you can feel those same midi-chlorians flowing through all living things, maintaining the delicate balance that the Sith sought to upset. Theory 2. Mace Windu's possible survival, the fate of Jedi Master Mace. Windu remains one of the most debated mysteries in Star Wars. The last we see of him in Revenge of the Sith, he is blasted with Force lightning by Palpatine, loses his hand to Anakin's lightsaber, and is hurled from the Chancellor's high-rise office window into the endless cityscape of Coruscant. His apparent death marks a critical turning point in Anakin's fall to the dark side. But did Mace Windu truly perish that night? The theory of his survival is compelling when we examine it closely. Picture that fateful scene in slow motion. Mace Windu, his face contorted in pain from Palpatine's lightning, is thrown backward through the shattered window. His purple lightsaber, the only one of its kind in the galaxy, spirals away into the Coruscant night. We watch his body arc down into the city's depths, and then the camera cuts away. We never see his body. We never witness his final moments. In the Star Wars universe, such an ambiguous fate practically invites speculation. After all, Jedi Masters have survived far worse. Darth Maul lived through being cut in half and falling down a seemingly endless shaft. Palpatine himself would later survive being thrown down the Death Star's reactor shaft, albeit with cloning technology. Even Anakin Skywalker survived being dismembered and burned alive on Mustafar. Mace Windu was not just any Jedi. He was among the Order's greatest masters, second perhaps only to Yoda. His mastery of the Force was profound enough that he managed to defeat Darth Sidious in lightsaber combat, something no other Jedi accomplished. His unique lightsaber fighting style, Vapad, allowed him to channel his inner darkness productively, making him uniquely equipped to handle extreme situations. So what might have happened after that fall? Despite the agonizing pain and the loss of his hand, his Jedi instincts may have allowed him to cushion his fall using the Force at the last second. Coruscant is an endless cityscape of levels built upon levels. He might have crashed through speeders, awnings, or scaffolding, slowing his descent enough to survive, albeit gravely injured. Wounded and disoriented, he would have crawled into the underlevels of the metropolis just as Order 66 began. As clone troopers hunted down Jedi across the galaxy, Mace would have been forced deep into hiding, perhaps too injured to even respond to any Jedi distress calls. Over time, as he healed from his physical wounds, the emotional scars would run deeper. The Jedi Order, the institution to which he had dedicated his entire life, was gone. His rigorous adherence to the Jedi Code would be profoundly shaken. The man who once confidently declared, "He's too dangerous to be left alive," about Palpatine, would now live in a galaxy where that same Sith Lord reigned supreme. A surviving Mace Windu would be a ghost, much as Yoda and Obi-Wan went into hiding. Perhaps he would be racked by failure and grief, his once rigid confidence broken. The Jedi who came closest to stopping Palpatine would be forced to live in a galaxy transformed by his failure. What would such a survivor do? He might become an anonymous protector in the shadows, performing small acts of rebellion on the fringes of Imperial control. Or perhaps he would guide other survivors discreetly, becoming a phantom mentor to those strong in the Force, but without formal training. Actor Samuel Jackson himself embraces this theory, noting, "Jedi can fall from amazing distances, and there's a long history of one-handed Jedi, so why not?" Even George Lucas has reportedly responded to Jackson with, "I'm okay with that, you can be alive." As you close your eyes, imagine an older, scarred Mace Windu, perhaps with a mechanical hand like Luke would later have, sitting alone in the dim light of a hidden room somewhere in the galaxy. Perhaps he feels a disturbance in the Force when Darth Vader finally turns back to the light and defeats the Emperor. Despite everything, one more Jedi survived, a silent witness to both the fall and the redemption of Anakin Skywalker. Theory 3. The world between worlds, the Force and time. Deep within the ancient Jedi temple on Lothal, connected through a mysterious Mortis mural, lies one of the most extraordinary secrets in the Star Wars universe, the world between worlds. This ethereal dimension exists outside normal space and time, appearing as an endless void of starlit pathways connecting portals to different moments throughout history. In Star Wars Rebels, Ezra Bridger discovers this mystical plane and finds himself surrounded by the echoing voices of Jedi past, present and future. Qui-Gon speaking of the living Force, Yoda contemplating failure, Rey calling to the Jedi, and countless others. These voices drift through the void like whispers across eternity, creating a hauntingly beautiful soundscape of Force history. But the world between worlds is not merely a cosmic observatory. It appears to offer limited interaction with time itself. In perhaps the dimension's most significant moment, Ezra reaches through a portal and pulls Ahsoka Tano from her fateful duel with Darth Vader, moments before what would have been her death. This single act creates a temporal loop where Ahsoka was always saved by Ezra's future intervention. What is this place exactly? This theory suggests that the world between worlds is not a time machine that can be freely used to rewrite history, but rather a guarded nexus of the Force, perhaps created by ancient Force entities like the Mortis gods or the Force priestesses, that serves a specific purpose when the Force it's. The Lothal Temple portal could only be accessed under very specific conditions. A Force-sensitive person, Ezra, who had connected deeply with the temple's mysteries, guided by the symbolism of the Mortis gods painted on the temple wall. It wasn't a place one could simply walk into. It required the Force to grant access. When Ezra saved Ahsoka from her predetermined fate, it suggests the Force allowed a compassionate exception to the normal flow of time. Yet through Ahsoka's counsel, Ezra learned that not all moments could or should be changed. When he contemplated using another portal to save his master Kanan Jarrus, Ahsoka reminded him that Kanan's sacrifice was essential. It saved her, Ezra, and many others. Changing that moment would have unraveled too many threads of destiny. This selective interaction with time suggests that the world between worlds serves as a safeguard for maintaining cosmic balance, not a tool for rewriting history at will. Emperor Palpatine's desperate attempt to access this realm demonstrates how dangerous it would be in the wrong hands. When he reached through a portal trying to capture Ezra and Ahsoka, we glimpsed the terrible potential for a Sith Lord to manipulate all of time. Think of the Force as a vast river flowing through all of creation. The world between worlds would then be like a series of small, carefully placed pools off to the side, where certain crucial moments can be witnessed or, in rare cases, altered. But only the purest intentions aligned with the Force's will can create those exceptions. As you drift towards sleep, imagine walking those starlit pathways, hearing the echoes of 1,000 generations of Jedi. Feel the weight of time around you, the connectedness of all moments in the Force. In this serene place between moments, past, present, and future exist simultaneously. A reminder that while we experience time as linear, the Force experiences all moments at once, weaving them together into the grand tapestry of destiny. Theory 4. Ahsoka Tano, the daughter's chosen successor. Ahsoka Tano's extraordinary journey through the Star Wars saga is marked by a series of near-miraculous survivals and transformations. From Padawan to rebel, from warrior to mystic, her path has been unlike any other character's. But one pivotal moment may explain her unique destiny, her death and resurrection on Mortis. During the Mortis arc in the Clone Wars, Ahsoka is briefly killed when the sun, the embodiment of the dark side, corrupts and then drains her life force. In a moment of sacrifice, the daughter, the embodiment of the light side, uses her last breath to channel her remaining life energy into Ahsoka through Anakin as a conduit. This seemingly simple act of resurrection may have had profound consequences that echo throughout Ahsoka's subsequent journey. This theory proposes that when the daughter transferred her life essence into Ahsoka, she passed on more than just a spark of life. She bestowed a fragment of her own nature, making Ahsoka a living vessel of the light side's purest essence. In essence, Ahsoka became the daughter's successor, carrying a piece of this cosmic force entity within her. The evidence for this connection appears repeatedly throughout Star Wars storytelling, most visibly a convor owl named Morai, with plumage matching the green and white colors of the daughter, begins to follow Ahsoka after the Mortis events. This is no ordinary bird. Morai is explicitly described as having a mysterious connection to the daughter and serves as a spiritual guardian that watches over Ahsoka throughout her journeys. We see Morai's significance most clearly in Star Wars Rebels, when the convor guides Ezra through the world between worlds, to the exact portal that allows him to save Ahsoka from her duel with Vader. This suggests that the daughter's essence, through Morai, was actively protecting Ahsoka and ensuring her survival for some greater purpose. Ahsoka's evolution after Mortis provides further evidence. When she reappears in Rebels, she wields white lightsabers, a color never before seen among Jedi or Sith. White represents purity and transcendence, beyond the traditional dichotomy of blue, Jedi Guardian, and green, Jedi Consular. Her appearance as Ahsoka the White parallels Gandalf's transformation in Lord of the Rings, a being who returned from death with enhanced wisdom and purpose. More telling still is Ahsoka's unique relationship with the Force after leaving the Jedi Order. She tells Ezra, "I am no Jedi," yet she remains firmly rooted in the light. She has found a path that honors the light side's compassion without being bound by the sometimes rigid dogma of the Jedi Code. This mirrors the daughter who embodied the light side in its purest form, without the political and institutional trappings that eventually contributed to the Jedi Order's downfall. If Ahsoka carries the daughter's essence, it explains her incredible resilience and her ability to survive when others perished. It might explain how she alone among the prominent Jedi and former Jedi of her era survived both Order 66 and the entire Imperial period. Perhaps the daughter's essence within her served as a shield against the worst of the dark times. This connection to the daughter also explains why Ahsoka is able to walk away from the Jedi Order without falling to the dark side. She carries the light within her in a more fundamental way than even most Jedi. Her light comes not just from training or philosophy, but from carrying a fragment of the light side's very embodiment. As you close your eyes, picture Ahsoka sitting in peaceful meditation beneath an alien sky, the convor Morai perched nearby. Between them passes an unspoken understanding, a shared purpose that transcends words. Both are guardians of the light in their own way, connected by the thread of the daughter's sacrifice. In your mind's eye, perhaps you can see a faint glow surrounding Ahsoka. Not the blue of a Force ghost, but the pure white radiance of the daughter's eternal light, guiding the galaxy toward balance long after Mortis itself has faded into legend. Theory 5. Mortis. Secrets of the Force Wielders. The mysterious realm of Mortis stands as one of the most enigmatic locations in Star Wars lore, a place where the very nature of the Force is laid bare in symbolic form. Discovered by Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka during the Clone Wars, Mortis appears as a monolithic octahedron floating in space, containing within it a world where reality itself seems to bend to the will of its inhabitants. Within this pocket dimension dwelled three beings of immense power: the Father, the Daughter, and the Son, collectively known as the Ones, or the Force Wielders. The Father represented balance, maintaining equilibrium between his children. The Daughter embodied the light side, creation, compassion, and life. The Son manifested the dark side, destruction, passion, and death. Together, they formed a trinity that maintained cosmic equilibrium. This theory proposes that Mortis was not simply a strange anomaly, but a constructed sanctuary, a pocket universe deliberately created by the Father to contain the immense power of his family and prevent their conflicts from spilling out into the wider galaxy. Consider the implications. Beings so powerful that their mere presence in the physical universe might destabilize the Force itself. The Father, recognizing this danger, withdrew with his children into Mortis, a self-imposed exile for the good of all creation. Within this realm, the cycles of light and dark, day and night, literally followed the movements and emotions of the Daughter and Son, visualizing their eternal struggle for dominance. Perhaps the most telling artifact on Mortis was the Dagger of Mortis, a mysterious weapon capable of controlling or even killing these seemingly immortal beings. Its very existence raises profound questions. Why would such a weapon exist if the Force Wielders couldn't die? The answer may be that the Father himself commissioned the dagger as a failsafe, knowing that if the balance ever tipped too far, even he might not be able to restore it without drastic measures. We see this play out tragically when the Daughter sacrifices herself to save Ahsoka, using the dagger as the conduit for her remaining life force. Later, when the Son fully embraces darkness and kills the Father uses the same dagger to end his son's life as well, ensuring neither extreme of the Force would dominate. The fact that these godlike beings could be vulnerable to a specific weapon suggests their power, while vast, had limitations, perhaps self-imposed for the greater good. The events Anakin experienced on Mortis feel more like a spiritual trial than a physical adventure. He witnesses apocalyptic visions of his future, confronts embodiments of the Force itself, and is briefly possessed by both the light and dark sides. The Father tests him as the Chosen One, even temporarily bestowing on Anakin the power to control both the Son and Daughter simultaneously, something only the Father could otherwise do. This suggests Mortis itself might not be a physical location at all, but rather a manifestation of the cosmic force, a place where spiritual lessons and cosmic warnings are imparted in symbolic form. It exists as a microcosm of the Force itself, allowing the Chosen One to experience directly the balance he was prophesied to restore. The ultimate fate of Mortis is telling. With the death of the three Force Wielders, the entire realm begins to crumble. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka awaken back in their shuttle, with no time having passed in the outside universe. Was it all a shared Force vision, or did they truly visit a pocket dimension that collapsed when its creators perished? Either interpretation leads to the same conclusion. Mortis represented the Force in microcosm, a symbolic representation of the eternal struggle between light and dark, with balance as the ideal state. The Father, Son, and Daughter were physical manifestations of abstract cosmic principles, withdrawn from the galaxy precisely because their direct interaction with it would be too overwhelming. As you drift towards sleep, envision a peaceful valley on Mortis during a moment of perfect equilibrium. The Father watches from his monastery as the Daughter's light and the Son's darkness dance in perfect harmony across the sky. Feel the serenity of that balance, not the absence of either light or dark, but their perfect cooperation, each defining and complementing the other. Perhaps that is the true lesson of Mortis. Balance is not the elimination of darkness, but its integration into a greater harmony with the light. Theory 6. The Wellspring of Life, Origin of the Force. At the heart of the galaxy, hidden from all but the most enlightened seekers, lies a legendary world that might hold the answer to the greatest mystery in Star Wars, the origin of the Force itself. This place is known as the Wellspring of Life, and it may be the very birthplace of the midi-chlorians, the microscopic organisms that connect all living beings to the Force. In the final arc of the Clone Wars Season 6, Yoda embarks on a spiritual journey guided by the disembodied voice of Qui-Gon Jinn. This path eventually leads him to a mysterious planet deep in the galaxy's core, described as the place where all life began. The planet appears barren from orbit, but beneath its surface lies a realm of breathtaking beauty, lush environments glowing with pure Force energy, where physical reality seems to blur with the spiritual. This theory proposes that the Wellspring is the literal source from which the living Force flows into the galaxy, the font of life energy that permeates all creation. Just as a mountain spring feeds rivers that nourish entire ecosystems, the Wellspring planet emanates the energy that binds the galaxy together. The planet's extraordinary nature is evident in how it affects visitors. Technology malfunctions near it, indicating how primal and pure its energy is. Yoda could only find it by following the pure light within himself, suggesting it remains hidden from those not ready to comprehend its mysteries. And upon arrival, Yoda encounters the enigmatic Force priestesses, 5 entities representing different aspects of consciousness: anger, joy, confusion, sadness, and serenity. These priestesses may be the Wellspring's guardians, perhaps even the distilled consciousness of the Force itself, taking form to instruct the rare pilgrims who discover their sanctuary. They teach Yoda the ultimate secret of immortality, how to retain consciousness after death, suggesting that all paths to becoming one with the Force lead back to this primal source. The most profound revelation about the Wellspring concerns the midi-chlorians. According to dialogue and behind-the-scenes information, this planet is the original home of these microscopic life forms. It's as if the first midi-chlorians spawned in the Wellspring's luminous pools eons ago, then gradually spread throughout the galaxy, carried on meteors or through the organic migration of life itself. This explains why midi-chlorians exist in all living cells across the galaxy. They all ultimately descended from those that originated at the Wellspring. Every being with midi-chlorians, then, carries within them a tiny fragment of this sacred place, a microscopic connection back to the source of the Force itself. In this gentle theory, we can imagine that the entire galaxy is connected by invisible threads of Force energy, all leading back to the Wellspring. When a being is born, the song of the Wellspring gives them their spark of life. When they die, their essence flows back, enriching the cosmic Force. It's a beautiful cycle of life, death, and rebirth that makes the Force feel both intimately personal and grandly universal. The existence of the Wellspring also suggests that the Force has a physical anchor in reality. It's not merely an energy field, but something with a geographic center. Perhaps this is why the deepest Force traditions speak of pilgrimages and quests. They are seeking, whether they know it or not, the original source from which all Force sensitivity flows. For Jedi like Qui-Gon, who focused on the living Force and its presence in all things, the Wellspring represents the ultimate confirmation of their philosophy. It embodies the truth that all life is connected by the same fundamental energy, originating from a common source. As sleep approaches, imagine the serene beauty of the Wellspring of life. Luminous pools reflecting eternal twilight, shimmering with the pure energy of creation. Envision microscopic midichlorians dancing like fireflies above these pools, some drifting upward to journey into the wider galaxy. Feel a connection to that distant source within yourself, a reminder that all life shares a common origin and eventually a common destination. The Wellspring continues its eternal flow, a cosmic heartbeat pulsing with quiet love for all living things. Theory 7. Hidden Depths of the Chosen One Prophecy. The ancient Jedi prophecy of the Chosen One is deceptively simple in its wording. A chosen one shall come, born of no father, and through him will ultimate balance in the Force be restored. Yet like many prophecies, its interpretation has proven far more complex than its text suggests. For generations, the Jedi Order understood this prophecy to mean that a savior would arise to destroy the Sith, bringing balance by eliminating the dark side's corruption. When young Anakin Skywalker was discovered on Tatooine, a boy with the highest midichlorian count ever recorded and born without a father, it seemed the prophecy was unfolding before their eyes. Yet this theory proposes that the prophecy contained layers of meaning that the Jedi Order, in their dogmatic certainty, failed to fully comprehend. The key question revolves around what balance truly means in the context of the Force. Imagine ancient Jedi mystics receiving this prophecy in fragmented visions thousands of years ago. They carefully transcribed it onto holocrons, preserving the words while perhaps losing some of the nuance. Over centuries, the Order's interpretation calcified around their own biased understanding. That balance meant the light side prevailing completely. But what if true balance meant something else entirely? The word restore in the prophecy is particularly telling. It suggests that balance once existed but was lost. This implies that the Force was out of balance even before the rise of Darth Sidious and his apprentices. Consider the state of the Force during the late Republic era. Thousands of Jedi served the light, while the Sith operated in secret, reduced to just 2 by Darth Bane's rule of 2. Numerically, the light side vastly outweighed the dark. If balance means equal measure of both sides, then the Force was indeed severely imbalanced, but in favor of the light, not the darkness. Yoda himself eventually admitted the prophecy might have been misunderstood. A prophecy misread could have been, he tells Obi-Wan, in Revenge of the Sith. Perhaps the Jedi's own rigid orthodoxy, their suppression of emotion, their detachment from personal connections, their political entanglements, had pushed the Force out of its natural equilibrium. In this interpretation, Anakin did bring balance to the Force, but in a way the Jedi never anticipated, by falling to the dark side and helping destroy the Jedi Order, then later destroying the Sith, including himself. Anakin reset the Force to a state of true equilibrium. When the dust settled after Return of the Jedi, both Jedi and Sith were essentially extinct, a clean slate from which a more balanced approach to the Force could emerge through Luke. The Mortis arc in the Clone Wars adds another dimension to this theory. There, the Father, who embodies balance, identifies Anakin as the Chosen One and seeks to pass his role as mediator between the daughter, light, and son, dark, to him. This suggests the prophecy wasn't merely about destroying the Sith politically, but about finding a deeper harmony between the fundamental aspects of the Force itself. Even more intriguing is the possibility that the Chosen One prophecy might be cyclical rather than a one-time event. Throughout Star Wars history, we see individuals who could fit the role of bringing balance in different ways. The Prime Jedi, who founded the Order with a more balanced approach to the Force. Anakin, who tore down both Jedi and Sith to reset the balance. Luke, who rejected aspects of the old Jedi dogma while embracing compassion. And even Rey, who called herself all the Jedi while facing all the Sith. Perhaps the Force periodically raises champions to correct imbalances whenever they become too extreme. The Chosen One might not be a single individual, but a recurring role that appears whenever the Force itself needs correction. A cosmic immune response to extremes of either light or dark. As you drift towards sleep, reflect on how Anakin's journey embodied this complex prophecy, born in light, fallen to darkness, and ultimately redeemed in his final act of compassion for his son. His life traced a full circle that touched both extremes before finding peace in the middle path. Perhaps that is the true meaning of balance, not the elimination of darkness. Theory 8. Dark Foundations. The Sith Shrine beneath the Jedi Temple. Beneath the soaring spires of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant lies a disturbing secret that few Jedi ever knew. The entire sacred complex was deliberately built atop an ancient Sith shrine. This architectural decision, made thousands of years before the events of the prequel trilogy, may have had profound consequences for the Force's balance and the Jedi Order's ultimate fate. According to canon sources like the novel Tarkin, the Jedi Grand Temple was constructed over the foundations of a much older Sith shrine. This was not accidental but deliberate, a common practice of the ancient Jedi to build their temples on sites of dark power in an effort to purify locations tainted by the dark side. By concentrating light side energies through the presence of thousands of Jedi, they hope to cleanse these vergences of their corruption. This theory asks us to consider both the hubris and hope entwined in such a decision. Imagine the scene thousands of years ago. Jedi leaders standing before the ruins of a toppled Sith shrine, a place where dark rituals had been performed, where the pain and suffering of victims had saturated the very stones with dark side energy. Instead of avoiding this corrupted ground, the Jedi made the bold choice to sanctify it by building their most sacred temple directly above it. For millennia, this strategy appeared successful. The temple became the center of Jedi philosophy, training, and culture. Countless Jedi lived, meditated, and connected with the Force within its halls, presumably concentrating so much light side energy that the darkness below was effectively contained, or so they believed. Yet the dark side is not so easily tamed. As the Republic's final days approached, the Jedi Order experienced a gradual but notable decline in their connection to the Force. Yoda admits as much. The dark side clouds everything. Impossible to see, the future is. The Jedi's foresight diminished, their wisdom faltered, and their once clear perception became increasingly obscured. This theory suggests that the Sith Shrine's buried influence had been quietly at work all along, like a slow-acting poison in the foundation of the Order. While the ancient Jedi had succeeded in capping the darkness, they couldn't eliminate it entirely. Over centuries, the dark energy may have gradually seeped upward, subtly influencing the Jedi above in ways too insidious to detect, perhaps fostering complacency, arrogance, or rigidity in their thinking. Most chilling of all is the possibility that Darth Sidious, operating as Chancellor Palpatine right under the Jedi's noses, was aware of this ancient shrine and used it to his advantage. Canon sources imply he regularly meditated in the depths of the temple after seizing control, communing with the Dark Vergence to enhance his powers. But even before the Empire, he may have used the shrine's influence to help shield his dark side presence from Jedi detection. Think of the perfect symbolic symmetry. The Sith Lord hidden in plain sight as Chancellor, while the dark side nexus hidden beneath the temple helped conceal his true nature. Both represented the blindness of the Jedi to the darkness that had already infiltrated their world at every level. After Order 66, Palpatine made the temple his imperial palace, a final mockery of the Jedi's failed strategy. The Emperor descended, into the depths beneath the temple, studying and drawing power from the ancient shrine that the Jedi had sought to contain. In the end, the Jedi's own sacred home became the throne of their greatest enemy. The tragic irony is complete. The Jedi, built on that spot to neutralize evil, but instead created the perfect conditions for evil to flourish right under their feet. The dark foundations ultimately contaminated the very institution meant to purify them. As you close your eyes, picture the great Jedi temple at sunset, its spires gleaming golden in the fading light. Then let your mind's eye penetrate downward, through the meditation chambers and training halls, past the ancient foundations, into a hidden chamber deep below, where darkness has patiently waited for millennia. Feel the two energies, light above, darkness below, coexisting in uneasy tension like the Jedi and Sith themselves, eternally intertwined in the cosmic balance of the Force. Theory 9. The mysterious origins of Yoda's species. In a galaxy where almost every sentient species has been catalogued, studied and integrated into the broader galactic community, one notable exception remains: the species of Jedi Grand Master Yoda. Despite being one of the most prominent figures in galactic history, serving on the Jedi Council for centuries, and training Jedi for nearly 800 years, Yoda's species has remained one of the best-kept secrets in Star Wars. Neither the name of his species nor their homeworld has ever been recorded in any official capacity. Even within the stories themselves, characters simply refer to Yoda's species because no other information exists. This isn't merely a gap in our knowledge as viewers, it's an intentional mystery within the Star Wars universe itself. Only 3 members of this enigmatic species have ever appeared in canon: Yoda himself, the female Jedi Master Yaddle, who served on the Jedi Council, and the infant Grogu, popularly known as Baby Yoda from the Mandalorian series. All 3 share the same distinctive features: small stature, green skin, long lifespans, large expressive ears, 3-fingered hands, and perhaps most significantly, an exceptionally strong connection to the Force. This theory proposes that Yoda's species hails from an unknown world extraordinarily rich in Force energy, a planet where the very air vibrates with the living Force, perhaps located near a powerful vergence or nexus. This environment might explain their species' natural affinity for Force abilities, as they would have evolved in constant communion with high concentrations of Force energy. Imagine a tranquil planet hidden in some unmapped corner of the galaxy, perhaps deliberately removed from galactic charts or located in the unknown regions or wild space. It might be a world of ancient forests or misty swamps teeming with life, creating powerful currents in the living Force. The planet's unique properties could also explain the species' extremely long lifespan. Yoda lived to be 900 years old, as constant immersion in such pure Force energy might naturally extend life. But why would such a species remain hidden? Perhaps they are so ancient and attuned to the Force that they chose seclusion eons ago, withdrawing from galactic affairs to cultivate wisdom in isolation. Their extraordinary Force sensitivity might have made them targets during ancient conflicts between light and dark side users, leading them to deliberately obscure their homeworld for protection. Another possibility is that the Jedi Order itself may have classified all information about Yoda's species to honor his wish for privacy, or to protect his people from those who might exploit their natural Force abilities. Given Yoda's prominence in the Order, such a request would likely have been respected. The rarity of the species is another intriguing aspect. Despite their centuries-long lifespans, very few are ever seen. This suggests they might have an extremely low birth rate, or perhaps they rarely leave their homeworld. Each member who does venture out into the galaxy seems to find their way to significant Force traditions, Both Yoda and Yaddle became Jedi Masters, while Grogu was being trained at the Jedi Temple before Order 66. Their extended childhood might also contribute to their mystery. Grogu is still considered an infant at 50 years of age, suggesting their development is extraordinarily slow. This extended maturation might be another adaptation to their Force-rich environment, allowing them to gradually develop the mental discipline needed to handle their powerful natural abilities. George Lucas deliberately kept Yoda's background shrouded, instructing writers not to explore it. This narrative choice elevates Yoda from merely being an alien Jedi to something more profound, a living embodiment of the Force's mysteries. Yoda often said, "Size matters not," and indeed his species' story proves that physical stature has little relation to one's significance in the Force. As you drift toward sleep, envision this hidden homeworld, misty bogs where ancient trees rise like sentinels, their gnarled roots twisting into the fertile soil. In small settlements nestled among these giants, wise beings, much like Yoda, live in harmony with their environment, studying the Force not as Jedi or Sith, but in their own unique tradition developed over thousands of generations. Perhaps somewhere on this peaceful world, elders gather to discuss the few of their kind who have ventured into the stars and what their experiences might mean for the future of their ancient, secretive species. Theory 10. Dagobah's Cave. Echo of a dark Jedi. On the remote swamp planet of Dagobah, where Yoda spent his final years in exile, lies a simple cave that emanates an unusually powerful dark side presence. Luke Skywalker's encounter with this cave of evil produced one of the most iconic scenes in The Empire Strikes Back, a vision where he faced and defeated a phantom Darth Vader, only to discover his own face behind the mask, foreshadowing the revelation of his parentage and his own potential for darkness. But what made this ordinary-looking cavern such a powerful nexus of dark side energy? Yoda described it as a domain of evil and strong with the dark side of the Force, but never explained its origins. This theory draws on elements from legends to provide a compelling explanation for this sinister vergence. Centuries before Luke's arrival on Dagobah, during the turbulent era of the Clone Wars, a powerful dark side user, one of the Dark Jedi who had fallen from the light, fled across the galaxy with Jedi pursuers close behind. Whether this dark figure chose Dagobah randomly or was drawn to some pre-existing Force energy that remains unknown, but their final stand would permanently alter the planet's Force signature. Cornered in what would later become known as the Cave of Evil, this Dark Jedi fought ferociously but was ultimately defeated and killed. In the moment of death, all of their hatred, fear, and dark side energy poured out in a final explosive release, saturating the cave and surrounding area with concentrated dark side power. As described in legend sources, the Dark Jedi's energies were absorbed into its surroundings, tainting the passage with the dark side. Over time, the cave became like an open wound in the Force, a pocket of darkness amid Dagobah's otherwise teeming life energy. The normal processes that might have cleansed this vergence were unable to disperse such concentrated negative emotion, leaving the cave as a permanent scar on the planet's Force landscape. Legends specifically identified this dark figure as a Bipifashi Dark Jedi, one of several dark side users who caused havoc across the galaxy during the final years of the Republic. While this specific detail hasn't been confirmed in current canon, the concept of a powerful dark side user dying in the cave and creating the vergence remains a compelling explanation. When Yoda arrived on Dagobah after Order 66, he recognized the cave's dark nature immediately, but rather than avoiding it, he deliberately established his humble home nearby. This seemingly counterintuitive choice reveals Yoda's strategic brilliance. The cave's malevolent presence acted as a form of Force camouflage, helping to mask Yoda's own powerful light side presence from the Emperor's far-reaching senses. Palpatine and Vader, searching the galaxy for surviving Jedi, might sense Dagobah's dark side nexus from afar, but dismiss it as just another corrupted vergence. The strong dark side emanations would effectively screen the light side energy of the Jedi Master, living just a short distance away. It was the perfect hiding place, using darkness to conceal light. The cave also served another purpose in Yoda's long exile. As he explained to Luke, the cave responds to what individuals bring into it, their fears, their anger, their expectations. It became a testing ground where a Jedi could confront their inner darkness directly. For Luke, entering the cave provided a crucial glimpse of his connection to Vader and the temptation of the dark side he would need to resist. There's a beautiful balance in how Yoda used this dark place for purposes of light. Rather than attempting to purify or destroy the cave's dark energy, he incorporated it into his strategy, finding utility in something corrupted. It demonstrates Yoda's wisdom in understanding that darkness, properly respected and understood, can serve the purposes of light. As you close your eyes, visualize Dagobah's misty landscape, vibrant with life, moisture, and the living force. Now focus on that single dark cave, its entrance partially hidden by twisted roots and hanging vines. Feel the contrast between the vital energy that permeates the rest of the planet and the cold emptiness that radiates from the cave's depths. In this juxtaposition lies a profound truth about the Force itself, that light and dark exist side by side throughout the galaxy, each defining the other by their very contrast, locked in the eternal dance of balance that governs all things. Theory 11, the Prime Jedi and the First Balance. Long before the Jedi Order established its Grand Temple on Coruscant, before the schism that created the Sith, there existed a single figure of profound importance in Force history, the Prime Jedi. This mysterious individual, believed to be the very first Jedi, founded the Order thousands of years ago on the ancient planet Ahch-To, establishing principles that may have been quite different from the Jedi teachings Luke Skywalker inherited millennia later. In The Last Jedi, we glimpse a tantalizing clue about this foundational figure. In the first Jedi temple on Ahch-To, an ancient mosaic depicts the Prime Jedi in a state of deep meditation. The imagery is striking. The figure sits in perfect balance, with the dark and light sides of the Force swirling around them in a pattern reminiscent of a yin-yang symbol. The Prime Jedi's lightsaber energy splits into both darkness and light, with the Force binding everything together in harmony. This theory proposes that the original Jedi philosophy, as embodied by the Prime Jedi, was fundamentally about balance, not just externally in the galaxy, but internally within each Force practitioner. Unlike the later Jedi, who focused almost exclusively on the light side while rejecting and fearing the dark, the Prime Jedi may have understood that true mastery of the Force required acknowledging and balancing both aspects within oneself. Imagine the Prime Jedi sitting in meditation on the cliffs of Ahch-To thousands of years ago, waves crashing below, contemplating the dual nature of the Force. Unlike later Jedi, who would shun emotions like anger, fear, and passion, the Prime Jedi recognized these as natural aspects of all sentient beings, not forces to be eliminated, but energies to be understood, accepted, and balanced with compassion, serenity, and wisdom. In this original Jedi philosophy, to know the light, one must also acknowledge the shadow within. The early Jedi who followed the Prime Jedi's teachings might have walked this holistic path, seeking harmony rather than the suppression of their darker impulses. Their goal would not have been to destroy the dark side, but to understand it as part of the greater whole, much as night and day form the natural cycle of existence. Over millennia, as the Jedi Order grew and spread throughout the galaxy, this nuanced philosophy appears to have shifted. Perhaps in response to those who embraced the dark side too fully and fell into corruption, the Order gradually adopted a more rigid doctrine focused on resisting the dark side entirely. What began as a philosophy of internal balance evolved into a more binary view that saw light and dark as opposing forces in conflict rather than complementary aspects of the same whole. By the time of the prequel trilogy, this transformation was complete. The Jedi Code emphasized emotion suppressing. Detachment. There is no emotion, there is peace. There is no passion, there is serenity. The natural human experiences of attachment, fear, and desire were treated as dangerous gateways to the dark side rather than aspects of a balanced existence. This deviation from the Prime Jedi's original teaching may have contributed to the Order's eventual downfall. By denying rather than integrating the dark side energies within themselves, the Jedi created internal conflicts that figures like Palpatine could exploit. Anakin Skywalker, forbidden to acknowledge his fears and attachments, had no constructive path to process these emotions, making him vulnerable to Palpatine's manipulations. When Luke Skywalker discovered the original Jedi texts and temple on Ahsoka, he found hints of this more balanced origin. His disillusionment with the Jedi in The Last Jedi may have stemmed partly from recognizing how far they had strayed from their founder's vision. When he eventually trained Rey, he incorporated elements of this more balanced approach, helping her confront and integrate her darker impulses rather than simply suppressing them. As sleep approaches, picture the Prime Jedi's mosaic on Arch 2. The figure seated in perfect equilibrium between light and shadow. Feel the harmony of that balanced state where dark and light flow together in natural cycles rather than opposing each other in conflict. Perhaps in this ancient image lies the future of Force understanding as well. A return to the original. Wisdom that saw balance not as the victory of light over dark, but as the peaceful coexistence of both aspects within the greater whole of the Force. Theory 12. The Bendu, one in the middle of light and dark. Among the most enigmatic beings in the Star Wars galaxy stands the Bendu, a massive ancient creature encountered by Kanan Jarrus and Ezra Bridger on the remote planet Atollon. Unlike the Jedi or Sith, who align themselves with either the light or dark sides of the Force respectively, the Bendu introduces himself with a provocative declaration. Jedi and Sith wield the Ashla and Bogan, the light and the dark. I'm the one in the middle, the Bendu. This theory explores the possibility that the Bendu represents a primordial Force tradition that predates both Jedi and Sith. Practitioners who followed a middle path by embracing both aspects of the Force. In natural harmony, the Bendu we meet in Rebels might be one of the last survivors of this almost forgotten tradition, serving as a living reminder that the Force was not always viewed through the binary lens of light versus dark. The very term Bendu provides a fascinating clue. In early Star Wars lore development, George Lucas referenced an ancient order called the Dai Bendu, or Order of Dai Bendu, as precursors to the Jedi. While this concept evolved during the creation of Star Wars, the name's appearance with this neutral Force wielder suggests a connection to the most ancient understanding of the Force. The Bendu's physical appearance reinforces his connection to primal nature, resembling a cross between an elephant, rhinoceros, and coral reef. He seems almost like a living extension of Atollon's landscape. When dormant, he appears as just another formation of rocks and earth, This suggests a being so attuned to the living force that the distinction between creature and environment blurs, embodying the force's presence in all living things. His abilities transcend the typical powers displayed by Jedi or Sith. The Bendu can manipulate weather on a massive scale, conjuring powerful storms when angered. He appears and disappears at will, seeming to merge with the Force itself rather than merely using it as a tool. Most tellingly, he perceives reality differently, able to see Kanan despite the Jedi's physical blindness, and sensing Kanan's inner turmoil and fear. The Bendu's philosophy offers a radical alternative to the doctrines of both Jedi and Sith. He neither suppresses emotions like the Jedi, nor surrenders to them like the Sith. Instead, he acknowledges all feelings as natural, part of existence while maintaining inner equilibrium. When Kanan brings him the Sith holocron for safekeeping, the Bendu shows no fear or revulsion toward the dark side artifact. To him, it is simply another expression of the Force, neither inherently good nor evil. His teachings to Kanan focus on overcoming internal fear and seeing with clarity, rather than adhering to strict Jedi dogma about light and dark. Only you can change yourself, he tells Kanan, a balanced piece of wisdom devoid of light side zealotry or dark side temptation. This philosophy mirrors what we glimpsed in the prime Jedi mosaic, the concept that true wisdom comes from internal harmony rather than the rejection of any aspect of the Force. Yet the Bendu is not a perfect sage of neutrality. When Imperial forces attack Atollon, his response reveals complexity and contradiction. Initially refusing to take sides in the conflict between Empire and Rebellion, "I take no side." He later erupts in anger when Kanan calls him a coward, summoning a devastating storm that attacks both Imperial and Rebel forces indiscriminately. As he tells Thrawn, while manifesting as a face in the storm clouds, "I am the Bendu, the one in the middle. I am the light and the dark, the beginning and the end." This duality reinforces that the Bendu represents balance, but not in the sense of passive neutrality. He embodies both serene wisdom and terrible wrath, compassionate teaching and destructive power, the full spectrum of the Force's potential. His middle path is not about avoiding the extremes of light and dark, but about containing and balancing both within himself. As your consciousness drifts towards sleep, envision the massive Bendu sitting in meditative stillness amid Atollons and coral formations, dust motes floating in the sunbeams around him. Feel the quiet power of his balanced presence, neither rejecting the passionate energy of the dark side, nor denying the compassionate serenity of the light, but holding both in perfect equilibrium, like inhale and exhale in a single breath. Perhaps in this ancient being's example lies a glimpse of what the Force truly seeks, not the victory of one side over another, but the harmonious integration of all its aspects in the great cosmic whole. Theory 13. Sith spirits bound to tombs. And Relics' death, for most beings in the Star Wars galaxy, represents the final transition, the moment when consciousness dissolves and returns to the cosmic force. But for the most powerful practitioners of the dark side, death is not always the end. Unlike Jedi, who can achieve a form of conscious immortality by becoming one with the Force as luminous beings, some Sith Lords have discovered a different, more twisted path to extend their influence beyond the grave. This theory explores the phenomenon of Sith spirits, the consciousness of deceased dark side users who bind themselves to physical objects or locations, creating a form of anchored existence that allows them to interact with the living world long after their physical bodies have perished. The Sith, obsessed with power and unable to accept the natural cycle of life and death, have, throughout their long history, developed various techniques to cheat death. While Darth Plagueis sought to manipulate midi-chlorians to achieve physical immortality, Other Sith pursued what might be called spiritual anchoring, the tethering of their consciousness to the material realm through artifacts, talismans, or locations of great personal significance. In canon, one of the most notable examples is Darth Momin, a Sith sculptor whose mask retained his consciousness long after his physical death. As depicted in the Darth Vader 2017 comics, Momin's mask could possess anyone who wore it, effectively allowing the dead Sith Lord to control their body. The mask even spoke directly to Vader and helped him design his castle on Mustafar before inevitably betraying him, showing that these Sith spirits retain the same ambitions and treachery that defined them in life. The process of creating such an anchor appears to involve intense focus and dark side energy at the moment of death. As a Sith Lord feels their physical form failing, they pour all their hatred, will, and dark side power into a chosen vessel, infusing it with their essence. The result is not true life, but a cruel mockery of it, a partial existence in which the Sith's consciousness remains bound to the physical world, but can only interact with it under specific circumstances. These circumstances vary, depending on the nature of the binding. Some Sith spirits can only communicate with Force sensitives who touch their anchoring object. Others can manifest as apparitions or visions to those who enter their tomb or temple. The most powerful can even temporarily possess the bodies of the living who come into contact with their vessel, as with Momin's mask. Such spirits are not at peace. Having rejected the natural cycle of the Force, they exist in a state of eternal hunger and frustration, powerful enough to persist, but too limited to fully satisfy their ambitions. They often seek to manipulate the living who encounter them, offering knowledge or power in exchange for helping them achieve some goal that might lead to their full resurrection. The Valley of the Dark Lords on Moraband, formerly called Korriban, likely houses numerous such spirits. Imagine walking through this desolate valley. Massive mausoleums, half buried in red sand, each potentially containing the anchored consciousness of an ancient Sith Lord, waiting for millennia for someone sensitive to the Force to hear their whispers. Sith holocrons may represent another, more structured form of this phenomenon. While Jedi holocrons contain teaching programs based on the knowledge of their creators, Sith holocrons often feature gatekeepers that seem to retain aspects of the original Sith's personality and awareness. These gatekeepers jealously guard their knowledge, testing those who would access it and attempting to corrupt them in the process. Unlike serene Jedi Force ghosts that guide and comfort the living, Sith specters are usually driven by negative emotions, anger, jealousy, fear of oblivion, and hunger for power. They appear not as luminous blue figures, but as shadows, red mists, or fiery apparitions that reflect their consuming passions. They offer knowledge, but always with a price, the slow corruption of the seeker's soul. This distinction highlights a fundamental difference between the light and dark approaches to death. Jedi achieve immortality through selflessness, by fully accepting death and becoming one with the greater Force. Sith attempt to cheat death through selfishness, by refusing to surrender their individual identity and binding themselves to physical objects. The Jedi path leads to freedom and transcendence. The Sith path leads to a form of spiritual imprisonment. For those who stumble upon an ancient Sith artifact, this theory serves as a cautionary tale. Beware what power you seek for the spirit offering. It has waited centuries or millennia for this opportunity. Their knowledge comes entwined with their malice, their gifts wrapped in invisible chains. As you drift towards sleep, envision an ancient Sith mask or amulet resting forgotten on a dusty shelf in some remote world's antiquities shop. Inside, a consciousness waits with inhuman patience, sensing the ebb and flow of Force-sensitive beings over the centuries, waiting for the right moment, the right person, to once again exert its influence on the galaxy. But so long as that person maintains inner light and resists the lure of easy power, these dark phantoms remain powerless, trapped by their own selfish desires in prisons of their own making. Theory 14. Dark Exiles and the Birth of the Sith. Long before the Empire, before the Republic, even before the Jedi Order reached its height, a pivotal conflict shaped the destiny of the Force users in the galaxy. This ancient schism would ultimately create the Sith Order as we know it, not merely as a dark side philosophy, but as a distinct culture blending fallen Jedi teachings with the traditions of an alien species that would lend them their name. This theory, drawn from elements of both legends and hints in canon, explores the origin of the Sith as an order born from exiled dark Jedi who conquered and eventually merged with a Force-sensitive alien civilization. Approximately 7,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, the events of A New Hope, the early Jedi Order faced its first major internal conflict, a war between those who adhered to the light side and a faction that embraced darker powers. This conflict, known in legends as the 100-Year Darkness, ended with the defeat of the dark side users, whom the victorious Jedi branded Dark Jedi. Rather than executing these fallen Force users, the Jedi chose a different punishment: exile. The defeated Dark Jedi were stripped of their lightsabers and placed on ships sent beyond the known regions of space, a banishment intended to remove their corrupting influence from galactic society forever. But exile proved not to be the end of their story, but rather the beginning of a darker legacy. These ships eventually discovered Korriban, later renamed Moraband, a harsh desert world that was home to the Sith species, red-skinned humanoids with natural Force sensitivity and a culture steeped in dark side traditions. The exiled Dark Jedi, led by figures such as Ajunta Pol in Legends accounts, found themselves among a primitive species that viewed their advanced technology and Force abilities with awe. Using their powers, the Dark Jedi quickly established themselves as godlike rulers over the native Sith people. They proclaimed themselves the first Sith Lords, appropriating the species' name for their new dark side order. Over generations, these Dark Jedi interbred with the higher castes of Sith society, creating a hybrid ruling class that combined the focused Force techniques of the Jedi tradition with the primal dark side sorcery of the original Sith species. They built massive temples and tombs, developed new forms of alchemy and magic that manipulated life itself, and forged an empire based on strength, passion, and domination. While specific details of this history exist primarily in legends, canon has preserved echoes of this ancient conflict. The planet Moraband, Korriban, still stands as the ancient Sith homeworld. In Star Wars Rebels, we learn of Malachor as the site of an ancient battle where Jedi and Sith were petrified together by the firing of a superweapon. These fragments suggest that some version of the Dark Jedi exile and the founding of the Sith Order remains part of the official timeline. The tale is almost mythic in its symmetry. Proud Jedi fallen from grace, cast out by their brethren, who then crown themselves dark gods over an alien people. It represents a perversion of the Jedi's exploratory and educational mission. Instead of bringing light and knowledge to the galaxy, these exiles brought dominion and darkness. Over thousands of years, the Sith would evolve through many forms. From the original hybrid culture to the massive Sith Empire that would eventually war with the Republic, to Darth Bane's rule of two that limited the Sith to a master and apprentice, culminating in Palpatine's Sith legacy. But all of these iterations traced their lineage back to those first Dark Exiles who, in their pride and hunger for forbidden knowledge, found themselves the unexpected masters of a civilization that would lend its name to the Jedi's greatest enemies. This origin story carries a certain tragic weight. The Sith Order, for all its evil, began with an act of banishment rather than extermination. The Jedi's mercy in exiling, rather than executing their fallen members, ultimately led to the creation of their most dangerous adversaries. It raises profound questions about justice, rehabilitation, and the unintended consequences of even well-intentioned decisions. As you prepare for sleep, imagine those first exile ships landing on the red sands of Korriban. Picture the fallen Jedi, bitter from defeat, stepping out to face the native Sith species, their eyes widening at the recognition of natural force users with an entirely different tradition. In that moment of first contact was born a legacy of darkness that would shadow the galaxy for millennia to come, a testament to how the seeds of future conflicts often lie in the resolution of past ones. Theory 15. The Lost Tribe of Sith, an empire in hiding. Among the many secrets hidden in the vast reaches of the Star Wars galaxy, few are as intriguing as the possibility of an entire civilization of Sith surviving in isolation for thousands of years, unknown to the Jedi or the Republic. This theory, drawn primarily from Legends material but with thematic connections to canon concepts like the Sith Eternal on Exegol, explores the fascinating possibility of a lost tribe of Sith, a complete Sith society that developed in seclusion after being cut off from the wider galaxy. The story of this lost tribe begins approximately 5,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, during the Great Hyperspace War between the Old Republic and the original Sith Empire. A Sith mining ship called the Omen, carrying a precious cargo of lignan crystals and crewed by both Sith warriors and their slaves, was damaged during a space battle and forced to make a blind hyperspace jump to escape destruction. This desperate maneuver led to disaster when the Omen crashed on an unknown planet called Kesh, a world with a breathable atmosphere and indigenous civilization, but lacking the metals and technology necessary for spaceflight. The crash survivors, led by Sith Lord Yaru Korsin, found themselves permanently stranded on this remote world, cut off from the rest of the Sith Empire and the galaxy at large. Rather than perish, these marooned Sith adapted. They encountered the native Kashiri species, a purple-skinned humanoid race with a primitive technology level. Using their force powers and advanced knowledge, the Sith presented themselves as gods to the Kashiri, claiming to be the divine Skyborn of Kashiri legend. They quickly established themselves as the ruling class of Kesh, with the Kashiri serving them as devoted subjects. But this lost tribe faced a critical problem. There were only a small number of actual Sith among the survivors, with the majority being non-force sensitive crew and slaves. To maintain their power over generations, the Sith leadership established a new social order. The original Sith and their descendants became the ruling elite, intermarrying with the most force-sensitive Kashiri to produce offspring with force potential. Over centuries, this created a unique hybrid society, Sith not just in philosophy, but as a distinct culture, with its own traditions, hierarchies, and religious practices centered around dark side worship, completely isolated from galactic events. The lost tribe developed along its own trajectory. They knew nothing of Darth Bane's rule of two, the fall of the Republic, or the rise of the Empire. Their knowledge of Sith history froze at the time of their crash landing, preserved in sacred texts and oral traditions that grew increasingly mythologized over generations. They continued to practice older Sith traditions long after they had been abandoned elsewhere in the galaxy. What makes this theory particularly intriguing is how it presents a mirror universe of Sith development. While the mainstream Sith tradition narrowed down to just 2 individuals under Bane's reformation, the Lost Tribe expanded into an entire civilization centered around Sith values. They created a complex society with multiple ranks of Sith, from the High Lords who ruled the government to the apprentices who competed fiercely for advancement. a culture where the dark side was not a secret tradition, but the official state. Religion. In legends, this lost tribe remained hidden for approximately 5,000 years, until finally rediscovering space travel and making contact with the wider galaxy during the Fate of the Jedi series. Their emergence came as a profound shock to a galaxy that believed the Sith had been extinct for generations, revealing that history can preserve unexpected pockets of the past that suddenly erupt into the present. While this exact storyline is currently part of legends rather than canon, similar themes appear in the sequel trilogy with the Sith Eternal cult on Exegol, another hidden pocket of Sith devotees who preserved ancient traditions in isolation. The concept of forgotten dark side enclaves waiting to be rediscovered adds depth and mystery to the galaxy, suggesting that the Sith, like the Force itself, find ways to persist even when seemingly vanquished. As you close your eyes, imagine the tropical world of Kesh with its pink sands and crystal skies. Visualize a society where Sith walk openly as rulers, where dark side teachings are discussed in public forums, and where citizens bow before statues of ancient Sith lords like Naga Sadow. Picture the isolation of this society. Generations of dark side users gazing up at the stars, knowing nothing of republics or empires, maintaining their own traditions in splendid, terrible isolation. A reminder that the galaxy still holds many secrets in its far corners beyond the knowledge of even the wisest Jedi. Theory 16. The I, wills, and the cosmic force's guiding hand. At the very heart of Star Wars mythology lies a concept so ancient and mysterious that it predates even the earliest drafts of the original film: the wills. Though rarely mentioned explicitly in the films or shows, this enigmatic group may represent the deepest layer of Star Wars metaphysics, the ultimate observers and perhaps even guides of the Force's grand design. This theory explores the possibility that an ancient order known as the Wills exists as the silent witnesses and chroniclers of the galaxy's history, subtly influencing the cosmic force's flow while recording its manifestations for all eternity. The concept of the Wills dates back to George Lucas's earliest ideas for Star Wars. In fact, one of his original titles for Star Wars was Journal of the Wills, suggesting a frame story where the entire saga was being recounted from some distant future perspective. Lucas later described the Wills as immortal beings who observe and record the story of the galaxy, maintaining the cosmic chronicle of all events. Within the Star Wars universe, references to the Wills are sparse but significant. In Rogue One, the Guardians of the Wills are introduced as an order dedicated to protecting the Temple of the Kyber on Jedha. Chirrut Imwe and Baze Malbus, former Guardians, suggest this order had a deep spiritual connection to the Force despite not being Jedi themselves. The novelization of Revenge of the Sith mentions a shaman of the Wills who discovered the path to immortality through compassion, knowledge later passed to Qui-Gon Jinn, enabling him to preserve his consciousness. After death, these fragments hint at a profound cosmic role for the Wills. This theory proposes that they exist on a higher plane of consciousness than even the most powerful Force users, perhaps as beings who have transcended physical form entirely to become one with the cosmic Force in a more complete way than even Force ghosts achieve. In this conception, the Wills serve as cosmic librarians and possibly subtle architects of destiny. They observe the unfolding of galactic events across eons, recording everything in the fabled Journal of the Wills, a metaphysical chronicle of all living history. But they may do more than merely observe. They might also gently influence the course of events at critical junctures. Perhaps it is the Wills who inspire prophecies like that of the Chosen One, planting visions in the minds of Force-sensitive mystics. Perhaps they subtly guide individuals at pivotal moments through quiet promptings in the Force. They would never directly intervene or reveal themselves. Their touch would be as gentle as intuition, a barely perceptible nudge that helps key figures find their destined path. The wills would not be aligned with either Jedi or Sith, light or dark. They would be custodians of the cosmic force itself, ensuring that its will is fulfilled in ways that maintain the ultimate balance of the universe. They would understand that both light and dark play necessary roles in the cosmic drama, and their concern would be with the overall pattern rather than temporary victories of either side. In the 2018 book, Star Wars from a Certain Point of View, a poem titled Wills appears at the very beginning, starting with, "The Force is what gives a Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. Cantina, cubicle, cantaloupe, carbonite, cardboard. The Force surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together." This meta-reference suggests the wills have a perspective that transcends even the fourth wall, seeing patterns in the story that the characters themselves cannot perceive. Perhaps, most intriguingly, in a 2018 interview, George Lucas mentioned that if he had made the sequel trilogy, it would have explored the microbiotic world of the wills, who feed off the Force and control the universe. While this concept never made it to screen, it reinforces the idea that Lucas envisioned the wills as fundamentally tied to the deepest mysteries of the Force. This theory provides a comforting meta-layer to the entire Star Wars saga. The notion that behind the chaotic events of war, loss, and redemption, there exists a higher-order recording and perhaps gently guiding the narrative toward a greater harmony. Like cosmic storytellers, the wills ensure that the saga unfolds as it should, that key players find their moments of destiny, and that the Force maintains its balance across the grand sweep of galactic history. As you drift towards sleep, imagine these benevolent eternal observers watching over the entire Star Wars story. Not just the events of the films, but countless untold tales throughout the galaxy. Feel their patient, compassionate presence, ensuring that even in the darkest times, threads of hope remain woven into the galactic tapestry, guiding the Force's will through the gentle current of destiny while recording every moment in their eternal journal. Theory 17. The Celestials, Architects of the Galaxy. Beyond the histories of Jedi and Sith, beyond even the ancient civilizations of the Old Republic, lies the shadow of beings so advanced they could move stars and reshape worlds. Often called the Celestials or simply the Architects, these mysterious entities may have been the first advanced civilization in the Star Wars galaxy, engineering entire star systems and perhaps even guiding the early evolution of life itself. This theory explores the tantalizing possibility that an unimaginably ancient species once wielded power on a cosmic scale, leaving behind evidence of their handiwork in the very structure of the galaxy before disappearing without a trace. The most compelling evidence for the Celestials lies in star systems that defy natural explanation. In Legends material, the Corellian system stands as the prime example. Its 5 habitable worlds, arranged in a perfect pattern that astrophysicists within the Star Wars universe concluded could only be artificial. These worlds, including Han Solo's homeworld of Corellia, show orbital patterns and compositions so mathematically precise that scientists determined the entire system must have been constructed by some intelligence with the power to move planets. The Celestials are believed to have built various megastructures across the galaxy. In Legends, Centerpoint Station, an enormous space station in the Corellian system capable of generating tractor beams powerful enough to move planets, was attributed to them. The Maw, a cluster of black holes arranged in an unnaturally perfect circle, was theorized to be either a defensive installation created by the Celestials or a containment field for something even they feared. These beings might have manipulated the very fabric of hyperspace itself, creating stable routes between star systems when natural hyperspace would have been too dangerous to navigate. Some theories suggest they constructed the ancient hyperspace beacons that first enabled galactic civilization to develop, laying the groundwork for all interstellar travel and communication. Their technological achievements would have been indistinguishable. From magic to contemporary Star Wars civilizations, imagine a species that could harness the energy of stars, that understood the fundamental laws of physics so completely they could bend or circumvent them, that might have seen the future across millions of years and prepared for contingencies on a timeline beyond comprehension. But who were these Celestials? Various theories exist within Star Wars lore. Some identify them as the same species as the father, daughter, and son from Mortis, godlike force wielders who eventually withdrew from the physical universe to maintain the balance of the Force. Others suggest they were the first species to evolve force sensitivity, who used their connection to reshape the galaxy before either transcending physical form or facing some catastrophic extinction. Their disappearance is as mysterious as their nature. Did they ascend to some higher plane of existence, becoming one with the Force in a more complete way than even Jedi can achieve? Were they destroyed by some cataclysmic event or enemy? Or do they still exist, watching from the shadows as the civilizations they helped seed develop across the eons? Whatever their fate, their legacy remains scattered throughout the galaxy, in the perfect arrangement of habitable worlds, in mysterious artifacts of impossible technology, in ancient structures whose purpose has been long forgotten. Perhaps even the midi-chlorians themselves might be their creation, microscopic life forms engineered to connect living beings to the Force, seeded throughout the galaxy to guide evolution toward Force sensitivity. Recent canon has softly reintroduced the term celestial in passing references, keeping the concept alive in the current Star Wars continuity. Even without explicit confirmation, the Star Wars galaxy contains enough unexplained wonders to support the theory that someone or something once shaped the cosmos with deliberate intent. For a bedtime contemplation, there is something deeply soothing about the concept of the Celestials. It suggests a grand design behind the seemingly random distribution of stars and planets, an intentional pattern created by benevolent architects who prepared a galaxy ripe for life and civilization to flourish. Like master gardeners who carefully arranged a cosmic garden, then stepped back to let it grow naturally, the Celestials represent a comforting thought that the universe was crafted with purpose rather than formed by mere chance. As sleep approaches, imagine these godlike beings in the dawn of time, their vast consciousness spanning the gaps between stars, gently nudging planets into perfect orbits, seeding barren worlds with the building blocks of life, and perhaps smiling with satisfaction as they glimpsed the distant future where countless civilizations would thrive in the cosmic garden they had prepared. Though long gone, their silent handiwork cradles every world in the Star Wars galaxy in an embrace that has lasted billions of years. Theory 18. The Rakatan Infinite Empire's Forgotten Legacy. In the most ancient history of the Star Wars galaxy, long before the Old Republic and even predating the formal founding of the Jedi Order, a cruel empire stretched across the stars. The Rakata, a humanoid species from the planet Lehon, also known as Rakata Prime, conquered much of the known galaxy. Through an unlikely combination of advanced technology and dark side force powers. Machinery with the Force itself, their ships, weapons, and tools were powered by the dark side, requiring Force sensitivity to operate. This Force-based technology gave them an insurmountable advantage over other species who had not yet harnessed the Force in systematic ways. The crown jewel of Rakatan achievement was the Star Forge, an enormous space station factory positioned near the star of the Lehon system. More than just a manufacturing facility, the Star Forge drew energy directly from the star and amplified it through the dark side of the Force to create an endless supply of ships, droids, and weapons. It was both technological marvel and dark side nexus, growing more powerful the more it was used, but also corrupting those who commanded it. With their Force-powered fleets, the Rakata conquered world after world, enslaving species across the galaxy. Among those subjugated were the early civilizations of Coruscant, Corellia, Kashyyyk, and many other core worlds. The Rakata transplanted populations between planets, forced captive species to build enormous monuments to their glory, and conducted cruel experiments on their subjects. They were not mere conquerors, but enslavers who viewed other sentient beings as resources to be exploited. What makes the Rakatan legacy so important to Star Wars history is how their empire's eventual collapse shaped the galaxy that followed. After nearly 10,000 years of brutal dominion, the Infinite Empire began to crumble. A mysterious plague swept through the Rakata, causing many to lose their connection to the Force, and with it, their ability to control their Force-powered technology. Slave rebellions erupted across their territories as their control weakened, and the Rakata were forced to retreat to their homeworld. As the Empire collapsed, their former slave species inherited fragments of Rakatan knowledge and technology. The early humans of Coruscant and Corellia, for instance, reverse-engineered aspects of Rakatan hyperdrives to create the first conventional hyperspace technology not dependent on the Force. The ancient maps and navigational data from Rakatan, star charts, formed the basis for the hyperspace lanes that would later enable Republic expansion. On worlds like Korriban, Rakatan influence may have helped shape the dark side traditions that would eventually evolve into the Sith Order. Their Force philosophies, centered on domination and power, left imprints on Force-sensitive populations they had controlled, creating cultural memories that influenced later Force traditions. Even the Jedi Order might owe its unique approach to the Force partly to reactions against lingering Rakatan influence. The early Jedi emphasis on using the Force for knowledge and defense, never for attack, could be seen as a direct philosophical rejection of how the Rakata had weaponized the Force for conquest. Though the Rakata themselves retreated into obscurity, their monuments, temples, and artifacts remained scattered across the galaxy, often buried beneath the foundations of later civilizations or hidden on remote worlds. In the Knights of the Old Republic video game, Legends material, the discovery of ancient star maps built by the Rakata becomes central to the plot, showing how their legacy continued to influence galactic events 25,000 years after their fall. While the specific details of the Rakata remain primarily in Legends continuity, the concept has received nods in canon. The planet Rakata Prime appears on a star map in The Force Awakens, confirming at least the existence of the species or their homeworld in the current timeline. There's something profoundly cyclical about the Rakatan story. An empire that rose to unimaginable heights through the dark side, only to be undone by the very power they exploited. Their legacy serves as a warning about the cost of using the Force for domination rather than harmony, while also providing a foundation for the technological achievements that would enable later, more benevolent civilizations to connect the galaxy. As you drift off to sleep, imagine ancient Rakatan temples slowly being reclaimed by jungle or desert, their dark purposes forgotten, but their influence silently continuing. Perhaps beneath the very ground of familiar Star Wars worlds lie the remnants of this cruel empire, buried ruins and dormant machines waiting to be rediscovered, for better or worse. In the quiet shadows of the galaxy's most ancient history, the echoes of the infinite empire remind us that even the mightiest civilizations eventually fall, leaving only fragments for future generations to piece together their story. Conclusion. As our journey through these 18 Star Wars theories comes to an end, we find ourselves with more questions than answers. And that's precisely the beauty of this expansive universe. Like the Force itself, Star Wars flows through generations of storytelling, constantly evolving, yet remaining true to its core mysteries. These theories remind us that in the vast cosmic tapestry of the galaxy, far, far away, there are countless threads still to be explored, connections waiting to be discovered, and secrets yearning to be revealed. From the divine conception of Anakin Skywalker to the ancient architects who moved the stars themselves, the depth of this mythology invites us to keep wondering, imagining, and dreaming. As your consciousness drifts towards sleep, carry these cosmic mysteries with you into the realm of dreams. There perhaps you'll find your own answers, or better yet, new questions that expand your personal connection to the eternal dance of light and dark, balance and chaos that defines the Force. May the Force be with you always, in waking life and in your deepest dreams.